Imagine an empty playground, a silent school bell, and an economy on the edge. Gap. This isn't fiction. It's a real and escalating global crisis. Gap. The world is experiencing a dramatic drop in birth rates, affecting every aspect of our lives: economics, culture, geopolitics, and even our aging process. Gap. Welcome to Milwaukee Insights, where we delve into today's most critical global issues. Gap. Today we'll uncover why birth rates are plummeting, what this means for our future, and how we can reverse this trend. Gap. If you value insightful content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more engaging discussions. Over the past 70 years, global fertility rates have dramatically fallen from an average of 5 children per woman in the 1950s to just 2.4 in 2024. Gap. This sharp decline is most pronounced in developed nations and is now becoming evident in urbanized developing regions as well. Gap. Take Japan, for instance. Its fertility rate stands at 1.3, leading to one of the fastest aging populations in the world. Gap. South Korea holds a world record low of 0.78 as of 2023. Gap. In Europe, countries like Italy, Spain, and Greece hover around 1.3 to 1.4, far below the replacement level. Gap. Meanwhile, in sub-Saharan Africa, countries like Niger still average 7 children per woman, but are seeing fertility declines due to urbanization. Gap. Birth rates below replacement levels lead to shrinking populations unless offset by immigration, a trend increasingly visible in Europe and East Asia. Gap. This demographic shift is reshaping societal structures from workforce dynamics to cultural norms. Economic pressures. Did you know that raising a child in the US now costs over $310,000? Gap. In bustling cities like Tokyo or London, the sheer expense of childcare can make expanding a family seem impossible. Gap. Economic insecurity. The post-pandemic world, coupled with rising inflation, has made family planning a daunting task for many young people. Gap. Delayed parenthood. Today's young adults are prioritizing education, careers, and personal growth, often delaying marriage and children until their late 30s or beyond. Gap. Cultural shifts. In countries like Germany, smaller families are becoming the new norm. Gap. The child-free by choice movement is gaining momentum globally, especially among millennials and Gen Z. Gap. Higher education levels among women are closely linked to delayed childbirth. Gap. For instance, women with college degrees in developed nations tend to have fewer children than their less educated peers. Gap. Urbanization and space constraints. In densely populated urban areas like Hong Kong or Paris, the feasibility of having large families is significantly reduced. Gap. Improved access to contraception. With better control over reproductive choices, many couples are opting to have fewer children. Gap. This trend is particularly noticeable in regions with strong family planning programs. Aging populations. In countries like Japan, nearly 30% of the population is over 65, creating a demographic time bomb. Gap. This imbalance puts immense pressure on healthcare systems and pension funds, threatening their sustainability. Gap. With fewer young workers, innovation slows, economies stagnate, and maintaining public infrastructure becomes a daunting task. Gap. Shrinking workforces. By 2050, Germany could lose over 20 million working-age individuals, drastically reducing productivity. Gap. Labor shortages. Industries like healthcare and manufacturing, which rely heavily on younger workers, are facing severe recruitment challenges. Gap. Smaller families are reshaping social dynamics, weakening traditional family-based support systems. Gap. Communities risk becoming less connected, with single-person households becoming increasingly common. Gap. In contrast, countries like India, with higher birth rates, could gain more geopolitical influence compared to aging giants like China. Gap. Population decline could also weaken military strength and economic competitiveness, reshaping global power dynamics. Family-friendly policies. In Sweden, parents enjoy an impressive 480 days of parental leave. Gap. With heavily subsidized childcare, Sweden once boasted one of Europe's highest birth rates at 1.85. Gap. France. Through comprehensive tax breaks and direct financial support, France has managed to stabilize its fertility rates. Gap. Innovative incentives. Japan offers financial bonuses to families who relocate to rural areas, encouraging population growth in less populated regions. Gap. Housing subsidies. In South Korea, the government provides discounted housing to young families, easing the financial burden of starting a family. Gap. Immigration policies. Canada actively promotes immigration, welcoming over 400,000 new residents annually to counteract declining birth rates. Gap. While not a direct solution to fertility decline, immigration strengthens the workforce and helps balance demographic shifts. Gap. Cultural campaigns. Hungary has launched a national campaign celebrating family life, offering significant financial incentives to mothers of large families. Gap. Technological innovations. Assisted reproductive technologies like IVF and egg freezing empower individuals to plan their families later in life. The birth rate crisis isn't just about numbers. It's a mirror reflecting our values, priorities, and the future we're crafting for the next generations. Gap. The challenges are significant, but they're not beyond our reach. Gap. With the right policies, cultural shifts, and community support, we can turn the tide. Gap. The real question is not just about population numbers, but about creating societies that truly value and support families. Gap. If this topic intrigues you, like, share, and subscribe to Milwaukee Insights for more in-depth explorations of the forces shaping our world. Gap. Your engagement helps us reach a wider audience. Gap. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more insights.